Okay, so have you ever felt like there's this like secret getting rich guidebook out there that like everybody else seems to have and you're just trying to figure it out as you go along? Well, today's deep dive is going to be about kind of cracking open that playbook with this fascinating book called The Science of Getting Rich.
Yeah, and you know what? It really is fascinating. Written way back in 1910 by Wallace D. Wattles, but this book still like really resonates with people even now. And what we're gonna go today is give you the core ideas, those golden nuggets, without you having to like dust off this super old text.
Exactly. You've read through the excerpts our listener sent in. So like what is the main idea that Waddles wants to hit us with right away?
Well, he comes out swinging with this idea that everybody has a right to be rich. Not necessarily entitled to it, but it's kind of like a part of living a full life for your body, your mind, and soul.
Hold up, because like a lot of us are taught that like wanting to be rich makes you kind of greedy. Is Waddle saying that like greed is good?
Not at all. What he's saying is that it's about having enough resources to live up to like your full potential. Imagine it this way. Let's say you had this dream of opening up a bakery, right? But you're barely able to afford rent. And that's basically a desire for a richer life being held back. Everybody has desires like that, and Waddle says that to him, that means you have the potential to achieve them.
So it's less about like hoarding cash and more about having the freedom to go after your passions.
Exactly. He even uses the example of like wanting to travel the world. If you can't afford it, then that's a part of you, that desire for new experiences that's not being fulfilled. And Waddle says we all have those desires, and they're not bad.
That makes sense. We all have those if money was no object daydreams. But here's where I get a little stuck. Don't you think some people just get lucky? Like they're in the right place at the right time?
Waddle says that's a bunch of baloney. He really believes that getting rich is a science. It's not just luck or chance. And he even compares it to math, like 2 plus 2 always equals 4. There are specific principles and ways of thinking and acting that consistently lead to wealth, no matter who you are.
Now that is a bold statement, but let's be real for a second. He really feels like opportunity is kind of monopolized sometimes. Like how does he address that?
He actually tackles that head on. So back in 1910, Wattles was using the example of new energy sources popping up. Imagine back then if you told someone you would get rich selling stuff online. He was saying that there are always new opportunities coming out. The key is that you just have to be open to them.
So while selling buggy whips might not be a booming business model anymore, there's always something new coming up on the horizon.
Precisely. And this also ties into another excuse that he completely debunks: I don't have enough capital. And this is where Waddles being influenced by New Thought philosophy comes in.
Okay, so before we go too far down that rabbit hole, what is New Thought in a nutshell?
Think of it like this. Like a baker, the ingredients are always there: flour, sugar, and everything. New Thought basically says that your mind is like the baker, and your thoughts are like the recipe. And if you change the recipe, you can change what you create, even when it comes to wealth.
So instead of saying, I need $1 million to get started, Waddles would probably say that your thinking is what needs to shift first.
Exactly. He truly believed that if you follow these principles, the capital you need will just come naturally as part of the process, not as like a requirement to even start. It's like you start baking this amazing cake, and then people are going to naturally line up to get a slice. It's not about like having that money just sitting there on day one. It's more about trusting that when you do the right things, the resources, they'll just show up.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how this all kind of fits together, but thoughts, really? That's like a lot of power to give to our own minds, don't you think?
Wattles really believed in that. He believed in the power of thought. So much so that he thought that even gratitude was essential to attracting more abundance.
So like just being thankful for what you've already got can somehow bring you more good stuff.
Think of it like this. When you're so focused on what you don't have, you're kind of putting out this like negative energy of need, right?
Right.
But when you're grateful for what you already have, even if they're small things, your energy shifts to like one of abundance.
So instead of stressing over my bills, I should just be grateful for like my comfy chair. Okay, Waddles, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, it's about changing your perspective. And this also connects to another big idea from the book: moving from competition to creation. So instead of battling for a slice of a limited pie, Wattles wants you to just bake a whole new one.
Okay, I am loving this analogy. So it's not about like trying to outdo other people. It's more about just finding your own unique path to wealth.
Exactly. You can use your own talents and your own creativity to create something new and something valuable. And that's how you create wealth that lasts, not just for yourself, but for everybody else too.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of those entrepreneurs who start those businesses that
Right.
solve problems that like nobody even knew existed.
Right.
They're not competing. They're creating something totally new.
That's the spirit. And Wattles wouldn't be much of a science of getting rich guy if he stopped at just thinking, right. He's all about action.
Right. Because, like, we can't just daydream our way to $1 million bakery.
Exactly. He calls it efficient action. Don't sit around waiting for the perfect opportunity to come along. Just do what you can with whatever you have right now.
So even if it's just like researching recipes or trying them out on my friends or maybe like taking a quick online course, like those baby steps actually matter.
Absolutely. Every single step you take brings you closer to what you want to do. And speaking of taking action, Wattles has this really interesting technique that he calls visualize and impress.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. What is that all about?
So Wattles says to create a very clear picture in your mind of what you want, like your dream life, your ideal job, that bakery you want to open with all the happy customers, everything.
So it's like I'm creating a vision board, but in my mind.
You got it. And then hold on to that vision with everything you have. Really believe in it. And by focusing on that image over and over again, you're basically putting it out there into the universe.
Okay, so we're kind of back to the power of thought, making things happen in the real world.
Exactly. It might sound kind of out there, but there's something really powerful about focusing on what you want and truly believing that it's possible. And Wattles takes it even further with this idea of the advancing man or woman, of course.
So it's not just about getting to a certain level of wealth and then just coasting.
No, not at all. He pictures a world where everyone is constantly trying to improve for themselves and for the betterment of, like, humanity as a whole.
So it's less about keeping up with the Joneses
Yeah.
and more about being the best version of yourself that you can be,
Yeah.
while also bringing others up with you.
Now you're getting it. And that's what I find so inspiring about the science of getting rich. It's not just about like stacking up money for the sake of having it.
Right.
It's more about recognizing that we all have this power inside of us to make a life full of abundance, purpose, and, just giving back.
It's about tapping into that creator energy that we were talking about before.
Yeah.
The universal energy, and then using it to build a life that's not only fulfilling for you, but also benefits others.
Precisely. And Wattles is giving us the tools to do this. He's giving us this set of principles. It's not like a magic formula or anything, but it's a guide to encourage us to take action, be grateful for what we have, and believe in ourselves.
So as you go through your day today, just ask yourself, what are some things you can do to kind of line yourself with these principles of creating wealth?
How can you use your talents and creativity to create more abundance in your own life and in the world?
And probably the most important one, how can you really cultivate a mindset of gratitude and believing yourself and your power to achieve your dreams? And you know what really struck me about this book?
What's that?
It's not about following this like super strict set of rules.
Yeah.
It's more about like understanding the ideas and then figuring out how they work for your own life.
Exactly. It's like you said, a framework, not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal.
And that's what makes it so cool. Like it makes you think differently, challenges you to kind of rethink what you thought was possible.
Right. It reminds me of that saying, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're probably right.
It really is all about mindset. And that's something you can start working on like right now.
Absolutely. Maybe start by thinking about like all the things you're grateful for, even the little things.
And then take action. Like what's one tiny step you could take today to get a little bit closer to that dream you have?
Maybe it's looking into starting that business you've been thinking about.
Yeah.
Maybe it's calling up someone you admire and asking for some advice. Or even just spending a couple minutes picturing yourself being successful, just like we were talking about.
Right. Because every journey starts with just one step.
Exactly.
And as you're moving forward, just remember Wattles' whole idea of always trying to better yourself.
It's not just about, making money for yourself, right? It's about using your own success to like make the world a little bit better.
Yes, exactly.
So whether that's like giving back to your community or mentoring someone or even just living your life in a way that inspires other people to be their best selves.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into the science of getting rich, just remember this. You have the power to make the life you want a reality.
It all starts with changing your mindset, believing in yourself, and having the guts to take action.
So go out there and be grateful for what you've got. Picture your dreams and take those steps towards living a richer and more fulfilling life.
And don't forget to share your abundance with the world. Because true wealth, it should be shared and celebrated.
Until next time, keep diving deep and exploring those amazing possibilities that life has to offer.